So let's see here. All right. Yeah. Chris usually is on the call and usually running these meetings. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, depending on how you look at it, he's handling some business with the business side of things. And so hopefully, we can work something out with our fellow business community here. But I guess let's get it rolling. So what's up, Ken? What's up, Lori? How's everyone doing today?
Blessed.
That's right. Blessed to be alive and well and healthy.
Wonderful. All right, cool. Well, my name is Yamoya, and today we're going to be talking about Blacks in tech. And we did have scheduled Eric Woods, who is a CIO, and that's a Chief Information Officer. He was scheduled today. Unfortunately, he could not make the call. So we'll see if we can hopefully get something in the near future with him. But fortunately, we do have another experienced tech person from ADOSLA in the house, Lori. What's up, Lori?
What's going on, family?
All right. So Lori is actually going to share her experience with us. And I don't know, Lori, did you want to kind of explain what you do in the industry? And then we'll go ahead and start some of the slides.
Sure. Well, I have been in IT for probably 20, going on 27 years. That experience has transcended multiple industries. I've probably worked in almost every industry that there is, from government to education to healthcare to entertainment. So I've crossed up financial. I've crossed a lot of different industries with my experience, and I've kind of risen through the ranks from the lowest starting position, if you will, that there is in IT, and kind of moved forward into kind of mid-management, which is where I am today. I'm currently a system engineer. I work at East West Bank in El Monte, and it's been a journey, and it's been quite rewarding. And I try to encourage, the younger generation. I have two sons. I definitely try to encourage them to think seriously about pursuing careers in the tech space, because, it's been good to me. It's been good to them. So, those are the things that I try to really stress to my kids and any other young person that I come across that's currently trying to figure out what they're going to do with their lives.
All right, wonderful.
And Lori, what made you get into the tech space in the first place? I mean, 27 years ago, it must have been a burgeoning industry.
It kind of was. It was an accident, really. My first corporate experience was actually in marketing, and I did marketing for 8 years. I learned how to become a graphic designer. I learned marketing. And I was in financial services at that point in time. So it just kind of happened by accident as I transitioned from one position to another position. I just found that I had a natural affinity for computer stuff. Once I got exposed to it, I did go to, I didn't take a traditional path. And so that's why I think it's encouraging, so that people can know that you don't really have to go through that traditional path with this type of career space. I didn't do the college degree and then, the certification, and then, because back then it was really just burgeoning. They were just bringing on word processing and the first little Wang computers and things like that. So it hadn't really developed into actually a tech space. They just called it trying to automate businesses and have business tools. IBM was the king. They were the ones that were, doing anything really substantial in computing. We all knew about the typewriters. That was an automated type of invention at the time that really helped businesses. So I learned. I went to a trade school and learned on one of the kind of first computers that they had. was really just a dedicated word processing machine. That's all it did. All it did was churn out letters for you. So, that's kind of how I learned. I went to, I did a 9-month course. And when I came out, I was blessed to, I think, they taught you how to prepare a resume. They taught you how to interview. They did mock interviews, this whole thing. And I used all those skills and was able to land a corporate job, my very first one, in the marketing department at an insurance company pretty quickly. And that's kind of what you really just did. You really just did a lot of just typing on these machines that churned out letters and things like that. So it was kind of an accident that I moved even into a dedicated tech space, because I was really a secretary. I was a secretary that used the computer. And my next position, I was a admin or administrative assistant that knew how to use a computer. But I just had a natural knack for kind of exploring and learning on my own and digging into how to use this tool better. And in doing so, one of my managers tapped me to go into this so-called dedicated, what they called MIS. Even the names have transitioned. They used to call Management Information Services. That used to be the term that they used back then, MIS. And they tapped me to go into a unit that was dedicated for, working with the computers that people were using and helping people when they got stuck or they didn't know how to do something. And so that's kind of what started me on that pathway. I know that was a long-winded answer, but
no, actually, that brings up other questions. Another question that I have: how likely do you think that these happy accidents would happen today, especially for ADOS being in that space?
Right. So, like I mentioned, this space does not really require the college trajectory, as in a lot of other industries as well, such as healthcare. You can take a CNA course. You're a high school graduate, you go take a CNA course, and you can get employed at a hospital and continue to move up in the healthcare space without necessarily having gotten a college degree. So it's the same thing with IT. You can take a certification path for a network administrator or for a help desk technician or A+ technician. And once you finish that certification path, once you get your first job, you are basically in there. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the hardest part, is getting that first job with maybe no experience. So it would, help if you like volunteer helping with the computers at church or something like that. I became pretty slick at knowing how to pad my resume with actual stuff that I did, but I made it sound like it was work. You know what I mean? Like it was a skill. And, that helped me actually, like I said, I just got moved into it accidentally. So, but for someone who has no experience, I know that's the biggest hurdle and the biggest challenge. You can go straight from high school and you can get that certification. You can self-study. They have self-study courses online that can basically teach you all the skill set that you need for the, beginning kind of level, which is typically in IT, it's help desk when you're doing actual hands-on IT. When you're doing things like programming or development, that might require a little more technical path, or even, like I said, a little higher education levels when you're doing that. But if you want to kind of get your foot in the door of the IT world, and you're not a programmer and that's just not your thing, help desk would be what you would start out at, or as a PC technician, as they say. And just, it's getting your first position. That's really the challenge. But once you get that first role, and you can even, like I said, volunteer to help, a youth group or at a school or something, just to kind of get some experience under your belt. But once you get in there, then you're really just building up your resume as you go along. So I think anybody at any point in time can even change careers. Say you haven't been doing IT. Say you've been in another space, you just don't think it's rewarding. Or you work at a bank and you're a teller, but you're really good at that computer system. That computer system, you're the ones that goes around and you help people when they're having a problem with the computer. You watch the IT guys when they come in and you're like, oh, I can do that. that's kind of what happened to me. I just was like, I would watch the IT guys when they did. I was like, I don't need to call them. I could do that. I remember what they did. And so that's kind of what happened, you know, and I think anybody can kind of get into it that way.
Okay. And you feel that that still holds true today, then why are ADOS having such difficulty getting that first opportunity in this space?
Well, I don't know if it's not getting the opportunity as opposed to people, ADOS people aren't really having those types of jobs kind of placed before them, or you know, in their educational track in schools and things like that. You know, my son, who is to be a senior, he's been going to the same school district his entire life, and last year was the first time they introduced a computer program track. Now they had nursing and healthcare and some of these other ones, but this is the first time that they've introduced in the inner city school. You know, the other schools in the suburbs where white kids go, they have those types of programs in high school and even in middle school. That was the first time they actually started a computer track where they could take that and springboard that into maybe directly a working job after high school, as opposed to having to go to college to get that type of. And as you know, our numbers in college are dwindling and are lower. So if they don't make those types of things available to us at the high school level, a lot of them, you know, a lot of our kids don't go to college to be able to get that education, and they don't know that there's optional paths in order to get that knowledge as opposed to going to college.
Okay, and as far as getting into the tech industry in general, you brought up a point. Uh, Even if you're not in the hardcore programming end of it, I mean, the makeup of these companies, these bigger companies, the Googles, the, you know, the Facebooks. My daughter out there in the Bay Area, she's in the Bay Area, and before the COVID, she was furloughed during COVID, but she worked on the sales and marketing in a tech company that was a subsidiary of Salesforce. And, you know, I asked her, I said, you know, how many Black people work at the company? And she's like, oh, 3. And I'm like, well, how many are in your company? And she's like, 250. And I said, well, that sounds like a problem to me. So do you even see them gaining employment opportunities, like I said, not in hardcore programming, but in, you know, sales and marketing, and even in some of the other positions that it takes to run tech companies?
Well, you know, I mean, that really just goes back to ADOS just being locked out, period. You know what I mean? I think it's not just in IT. I think it's in multiple positions, you know, like you said, in the sales and marketing side, in the accounting department that supports a tech company, in the HR department that supports a tech company. It's no different in those roles, I think, either. I think that, you know, we're just kind of being locked out. We have the skill set, but it's just, you know, the implicit biases and the explicit biases. And we know the cronyism, and we know the nepotism, and we know certain people only hire their people once they get in the door. And, you know, unfortunately, when we come to businesses, when ADOS people, sometimes when we get in management positions, we're afraid to hire our own because we don't want it to look like, oh, we're trying to bring all Black people on. But every other ethnic group is not ashamed of basically, you know, they're not supposed to be overt with it, but they basically, you know, if there's 2 or 3 candidates that are very similar skill sets, you know, and then the last name is pretty, you know, it's like, or the face-to-face interview, people, you know, they just kind of, those other ethnic groups, they kind of go with their own. Asian people will overwhelmingly hire Asians, and Hispanic people will overwhelmingly hire Hispanics. I go into a bank that's in a neighborhood that's probably majority Hispanic. Say like you take a Compton, it's kind of tilting toward more Hispanic than Black people. But everybody knows down here in California, in Southern California, that Compton was pretty much all Black. Now the Hispanic people have come in. So now you go into these banks in these areas, all you see are Latino tellers. Well, I'm the kind of person I'm going to say, can I talk to the manager, please? Because I'd like to know in an area where it's heavily 40% black, why there's no black tellers here? Why is everybody here Hispanic? And I've done that before. And like I said, I think it transcends even the sector that you're in. It's not just in tech. I think we're just being locked out.
Okay. And you've been in the business 27 years. You said that you are in a mid-management position. How long did it take to work up to mid-management in the tech industry?
Well, one of the things that I've noticed about IT is that your gifts and talents will make room for you. So it really depends on you. It really depends on how you're able to interact. You know, in smaller companies, and I've been in all of them. I've been in companies where I was the only person that handled all of the IT stuff. I've been a manager. I've been a director. You know, and then I've been like really just focusing on the hands-on technical sides of it. And I go in and out of those spaces really based on what, you know, I feel like, you know, whatever is rewarding and beneficial for me. The titles are interchangeable. What true mid management means is typically you are a senior person in your in that particular area, or and you have other people that you're mentoring underneath you, and maybe a couple of people that you directly supervise. It's really up to the person. You know, you are. One thing I do notice is that unless you're really in an overtly kind of just a racist environment, if you're good, you could pretty much continue to elevate. And if not, once you get experience, if your skills are, and if you continue to add to your skills by, like I said, self-teaching and things like that. I was the kind of person for a minute, every year and a half, I was leaving the company and going to another company because I was trying to not only increase my experience in different industries and in different skill sets, but I was also trying to increase my salary. And sometimes when you stay with a company, the way that they give raises is very incremental. It's like 1% or 2% or even less than that. You know, if you get paid by the hour, sometimes they want to give you $1 an hour raise after you've been there a year. So I was kind of not into waiting that long. So I would just move from one position to the next. And as I was able to increase my resume and my skill set, I could demand more money. So every time I would, like a year and a half, I would jump to another job, I would increase my rate at least $5 an hour. And so for a period of almost like 10 years, I was turning over jobs kind of, you know, every year and a half so that I could kind of increase it. Like I said, you can create your own trajectory. If you're the kind of person that you're a steady person and you like staying in one place, the people are cool, there's not too much BS going on, they take care of you, your benefits are good, that's great. That's your choice. If you're a person like me, I constantly need to be challenged. And when things start getting a little static and you're boring or whatever, and I'm the kind of person that probably would seek to go move around and do something else. But like I said, it's really driven by your skills. So I wanted to I know you guys had some other like stats and some things in terms of industry and like Google. We are very underrepresented at a lot of these Silicon Valley companies. And one of the reasons why is those companies are software companies, and their product is a technical product. Their product is a website. The product is a software. Those types of jobs they're very heavy on the programming and development side. I am on what's called the infrastructure side. What I do is I work on the teams that actually build the environments for the people to be able to go ahead and program. And then we have to maintain those environments. So like Amazon's, all of their e-commerce sites and things like that, they run on servers, they run on boxes in data centers. Well, we have to make sure that the boxes in the data centers are free of attacks and viruses and are able to handle the loads and all that other kind of things. So there's two different types of like I said, there's multiple trajectories that you could take in that space. We're not really heavily represented in the programming side because, like I said, Black people, I don't know, and it's not even a Black thing. they've surveyed Americans in general are not interested in programming. It's a very tedious type of occupation. A lot of attention to detail. You're looking at millions and millions of lines of just code, and code a lot of times some can be word based and some can be squiggles and wiggles and all kinds of symbols, and you're like, what the heck is going on here? So a lot of just Americans in general are not drawn to that, you know, and that's where there's a lot of need, because we've now grown into a technical and e-commerce based society. So that's one of the reasons why I think that you don't see a lot of us represented in Google. And then on the side where you're doing the infrastructure and the support side and the, like you said, accounting on the support side, those jobs don't really turn over a lot. Once people are in them, they're kind of in them, you know what I mean? And companies work to keep those people because those people know, to say it's like they know what's going on. Like with any job, you become more valuable as you know the environment a little more. And they don't want to just turn it over and have some new person coming in there that doesn't really know what's going on. So, you know, that's kind of like another reason why, because there's a lot of heavy emphasis on the developer side, but there's a lot of other domains as well. If you have that, the top IT jobs chart, if you could bring that up.
Okay. Let's see.
That way, I want people to see. It's not, you know, there are so many different avenues that you can take. And if you're interested, or if you have kids that are interested, you might want to kind of take note or take a screenshot or something. If you can, maybe we can email it to people. Research these types of these roles and what the education. All you have to do is type the name of the position and type certification after that. So if it's network administrator, you put certification. It'll tell you what the educational path.
Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen right now, Kim and Lori. So it's gonna give it that
infinity screen.
Yep.
That's okay.
All right. Okay. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah, IT jobs right there.
All right, cool.
All right, can you maybe zoom it in a little bit? I don't know. You could.
Which? Let me see if I can.
Yeah, that's a little better. It's a little better. So,
hold on a second. Let me.
Yeah, I really just want to focus on the table there.
Onto the right.
Full screen, yeah. You should be full screen if you could just.
All right, let me see.
Full screen on that.
Oops.
Ooh, but that was zooming. That was great.
I know, right? Yeah, let me see.
Yeah, you don't want to change the aspect ratio. If you could just make it full screen, maybe. Right. Zoom in on it. Are you opening that with like an image program? What are you using to open?
Yeah, unfortunately, let me go back. I'm gonna get out of here.
And while he's doing that, Lori, I'll just ask.
All right, is that better?
Oh, let me see. Yes, I think so. Is that better for you?
The little plus. You see the plus sign at the very top across your little menu. If you click the
it says add to.
No. In the center. You see the magnifying glass with the plus?
Oh yeah, got it.
Click that. Cool. There you go. Now let's slide that up. Voila. There we go.
All right.
Okay. So now I kind of So as you guys can see, the top and this is a very recent DICE. If you're interested in, like I said, tech spaces and you want to see what types of jobs and what types of skills they're looking for these jobs, dice.com is the go-to tech recruiting site. That's all they focus on. I know there are other places like Monster and Indeed. Shout out to Chad Brown. But those focus on all jobs. DICE is nothing but a technical recruiting and a technical job hub.
And that's DICE,
yes,
like roll the dice.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so DICE, does a job survey and salary surveys and things like that every year. And they recently did one for the first quarter of 2020, taking into account COVID-19 and how the needs of businesses are changing based on the fact that now we're staying at home. And as you can see, these are the rankings of the position of things that are currently being sought after. The job that I'm in is number 3 on the list, which is a systems engineer. But if you see software developer, number 4, senior software developer, number 5, Java developer, number 6, software QA engineer. That's the person that makes sure the code is clean and that it works. Application developer, number 8. And as you can see, almost the top 10 are heavily software and programming positions. Positions such as network engineer and system engineer, like I said, those are the guys that keep everything running so that they can do the programming. So that's why that's kind of like, those are always going to be very, very important roles. Some of the lower tiered roles would start at like number 9, which is a computer support specialist. That's basically almost your entry level. That along with number 16 on the list, which is a help desk technician. Those are entry level, but there's been a surge in those positions because people are at home now. And a lot of people, you saw what it was like when we first started with all the Zoom meetings, how many people didn't know what they were doing. So that's the help desk guys are the ones that are going to help the executive get their Zoom and fix why their microphone's not working and why their camera's not working and things like that. And then you can get, you kind of get more cybersecurity engineer. The security sector is exploding. That's one of the areas that's non-programming. That's one of the biggest and most sought after and most highest paid roles. And that's, of course, is trying to thwart hackers, because everybody knows everybody's trying to hack. So anything that says cybersecurity, like number 14 on this list, cybersecurity engineer or security information systems engineer or something to that nature, those roles are also expanding. Database, number 20, database administrators. Pretty much all software has to store that information somewhere, and it's usually like in a table format, and that's usually in a database. And those things are monsters, and they're very highly specialized. When you go to a website like Google and you type in the little search thing, that's called a query. That query is pulling information from a database. And so those databases constantly have to be maintained and make sure that they don't crash. Otherwise you don't get results. So these things are all kind of the building blocks of what makes up like the technical world, or even of an application. So these are the top roles that are out there. So like I said, make notes, help desk technician, computer support specialist, those are entry level. The ones that support the development and software are systems analysts. They have pretty much I see number 13. That's really a non-IT position, graphic designer. You see a lot of people have graphic designer. Well, with the state of mobile gaming and things like that, they need people that can create artwork. Really, it's not really a technical position, but it's something that's really required. Then let's go to the other one, Amoya.
All right.
And Lori, while he's doing that, is there kind of a benchmark entry salary for the help desk positions? Is there kind of an average that you can expect for those entry level type positions?
Yeah, but they differ by locality. And so I have maybe I can show the type of salaries, because I do have the full salary report from DICE. It depends on where you are. You would be surprised at some of the places that actually have higher salaries. Most people would think it would be New York and California, although they are some of the highest salaries. But you have Washington, D.C. People in Washington, D.C. and IT get paid more than anybody. So it really depends on, for the same skill set, there's what's called a locality pay portion of it that takes into consideration where you live. But help desk, you can probably, most of those are hourly, they're not salary. You could probably start off with $18 an hour beginning help desk. If they're offering you less than that, they're trying to lowball you.
Okay.
And then once you start off with the help desk, that's like when you call the 800 number because you have a problem with your bank. That person that answers the phone, that's
Oh, yeah.
that's a level 1 help desk person. Okay, the guy we beat up when we were mad. That's that role. And then you have the tier 2, and they can't solve your problem. You're like, I want you to escalate this to somebody else. Then that's what you call the level 2 help desk technician. As you go up in the levels, you make more money. That's probably like a $22 an hour type of position. If you become a senior desktop specialist or computer support specialist, like it was on the other one, you probably earn the $24, $25 an hour range. So it can get, it can start having a pretty nice payoff after probably you get in about 5 years of experience. You might hover in the low 20s, 18s and low 20s. But after you get about 5 years, you should be $25 an hour and above, really, in your skill set. And if you improve your skill set and keep adding to your skill set, then that will only make you more marketable. And that's based in California. Now, I can't tell you what that same position might be. And like you said, on the salary survey, if we want to look at that, we can. But let's look at these skills. So the number 1 skill is SQL. SQL is a skill that database administrator. So on the other screen, I told you about the databases. SQL is actually the language that's the query language. So a person to manage the SQL databases, you see that's the number 1 skill. Java is a programming language. So in order, for a lot of, but Java's going away. So I don't know why that's number 2. They're deprecating it. Java is number 2. That's a programming language that a lot of websites are built in. A lot of software are built in is in Java. Then they have skills like software development, even managing, project management, number 6. You don't have to have the technical skill directly, but you have to know how to take someone's idea of what they want and help them formulate it into from an idea to an actual product. Somebody has to manage that entire process. That's a project manager, okay, or program management. Say the government decides they want to implement COVID-19 recovery. That becomes a program that has a lot of things that it depends on that would be connected to that. You have a person that would be called a program manager, which is basically the same thing. That's what government calls them. That has to manage the implementation of it from the point someone has the idea that they want to give relief checks out to people to actually implementing that and everything that entails. So those jobs are also out there if you don't necessarily think you have a technical skill. But as you can see, just kind of make a note of some of these. Like I said, if you're interested, research them. But those are some of the top skills that's out there.
Okay. And we have a couple of comments and statements here on the chat. A Marquis Mark, he says they say they work for a software company and plan to suggest an immersion program with the HBCUs in our state. Tired of being the only one in that space all the time. So as far as being the only one in the space, I mean, percentage-wise,
Black woman. Every job I've been in 27 years, I have been the only Black female, and a lot of times the only Black person. And typically, in a mid-sized to large company, there's at least 4 to 6 people on an IT team. I've always been either the only Black person, and definitely hardly ever see. I don't even hardly really see white women. You don't see that a lot. Not on the side that I'm on. You see a lot of women, and not necessarily even Black women, but at least more women on the more softer skills, like the business analysts, the database administrators, and the programming side. On the hardware side, where you're managing infrastructures, because, I mean, at that point, you got to be able to rack and stack a server, if you will. Sometimes those things are heavy. So there's not a lot of women that gravitate toward that. And in my experience, I understand being the only. But like I said, I think it goes back to us, not as parents and as the school system and educators, putting these programs and these skills and like these STEM programs. That's kind of like what is needed. they started creating this STEM pathway for kids in college, high school, to be able to start to get into science, technology, engineering. Now they've changed it to STEAM because they've added arts back into it. So it's not STEM anymore, STEAM. So they've started those programs, but us as, we have to kind of push our kids into those programs, let them know what the benefit. Kids, they know there's like, do you want to I just tell myself, do you want to make a lot of money? Do you want to be able to afford this kind of stuff on your own? There's certain careers you can do that with, and there's certain careers that you can't. So yeah, HBCUs and H-1B visas issues. That's something that ADOSLA, we're currently trying to bring up the bill. S-1095, is it? It's one of them. It's a bill about H-1B visas where we want to propose that they change the language in that bill to add in ADOS people from HBCUs to have an opportunity to have those jobs. Why are you increasing H-1B1 visas for people to be brought from outside the country when you have people that are in those HBCUs that have those skill sets? And we're like, this is ridiculous. This is something that we shouldn't even be talking about right now.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm similar with what was happening with the nursing programs, where they were taking in outside applicants rather than here. So you actually have to push legislation in order for them to integrate ADOS into this space, it sounds like. And then my next question is, with the youth, you mentioned the youth and pushing the youth towards this career path. Since these millennials and Gen Zs, they're kind of inherently, connected to a digital space. They do this type of stuff all the time. They've grown up with it. They don't even know a world without it. How do they take that knowledge of what they do anyway and turn it more into a career? It sounds like they already have the skills. They just grow up with it. They just need to focus in that direction.
Exactly. And I have two boys who are definitely thumb jockeys. And, I tell them all the time, like, instead of do you know that if you take that and you learn actually how to create the game, or they spend a lot of hours watching these YouTubes with these people talking about games. I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to spend all that time watching, somebody talk about a video game, you could actually do something similar. If you like video games so much, you could make a YouTube channel. I'm trying to get them to be entrepreneurial and start thinking how to transition from something just being an entertaining thing and something that they're just using, to me, waste time. And turn that into something that if you're really interested in that is something you should be learning at how to create video games. Maybe you should start looking into gaming or how to create a game, a game as a possible career, because at a certain point you're going to have to choose what you're going to try to do, and it might as well be something that you like. Maybe showing them how creating and developing games and what gamers, people that develop that type of thing, the graphic design portion of it, the programming portion of it, all of those things, kind of maybe find some average salaries and show them, like, if you actually study how to do this is what you can, they all understand making money. But sometimes, when the parents are taking care of the kids too well, they don't have the incentive. You know what I mean? There's some kids who are, they're in a maybe a poor household, or there's not a lot of opportunities, but they're a smart kid. They focus on their studies. But if their interest is in just kind of like sitting around playing video games all the time and not really, looking forward into becoming an adult and investing in their adult life, then I think that's something the parents really have to kind of undertake, because that's where it is. It's the parents have to kind of guide and direct your child into a career path or a educational path that's going to benefit them. And start, I start my kids at 16. You're officially starting to adult. So now you're going to start learning how to do adult things. And part of that is having conversations about what you're going to be doing when you're older. It's about paying bills. It's about getting bank accounts, about learning how to use debit cards, banking systems, and financial instruments and things like that. So we as parents have to do that.
And with you as a parent, having it as a background, of course, naturally, it would be easy for you to talk to your kids about that. But a lot of the older generation, they just don't have the tech skills or even understand the tech skills. And that sounds like it kind of goes back to what you said about it needs to be in the schools. It needs to be in the inner city schools, and it needs to be present at that level. Just to garner their interest in it.
Other than home, that's where kids spend most of their time, is in school.
Yeah, and then I'm speaking of in the home, because I'm another big proponent of bridging the digital divide. Now, what if you just don't have access to the technology and access to the tools, because they are expensive, and you are shut out if you don't have access to these technologies, because everything we do nowadays takes some knowledge of technology, like even applying for a job, especially these government level jobs. They have a whole system where you can only apply online. What is being done to bridge the digital divide for these youths that just don't have access to the technology?
Well, out of sometimes kind of out of tragedy and bad luck, good things kind of come out. And as a result of COVID, a lot of attention has been brought to light about lack of access for a lot of kids. And they're trying to do something about that. Their school, my son's school adopted every kid in the school gets a free Chromebook 2 years ago. When he entered into the 10th grade, they handed him a Chromebook, and he's had it ever since. There's a lot of schools that are adopting that type of thing, so the kids get the free computer. If a school doesn't have that, there was a tutoring program that I had enrolled my son in, and most schools will have a list of tutoring program. The tutoring program gave him a computer to use while he was underneath the tutoring program. There's a lot of foundations and nonprofits that are actually there to provide kids access to computers. So there's like, if you want, interested in type in the word free computer for school in Google and see what comes up. And you'll be surprised that there's a lot of avenues in order to be, try to get your hands on at least a laptop of some sort. And then if you don't have internet access, you may have to go over to your friend's house who has internet access. Everybody has a cell phone. All cell phones have what's called a hotspot, which is basically a Wi-Fi built into your phone that you can activate and use it to power the internet for your laptop. So a lot of people don't know that they have what's a built-in mobile hotspot. Like you go to Starbucks and you should sign on to theirs. Your phone has the exact same thing. So you can turn that on and use that even if you don't have internet for your home. You can use your phone to power the internet. You might not get the fastest speed, and it may, you just got to make sure you understand if there's going to be extra charges on your bill for that. A lot of them will allow you a certain amount of data for free. So you just kind of look into that. But if your kid has a cell phone, and if they can get a laptop or something that for free or even donated, a lot of places will donate. People are part of their community of people that they know, their aunts, their uncles, and people that, just kind of like, we're looking for, I think Facebook even has a fundraiser thing. You can go in there and put a fundraiser and say, I'm trying to get money for a laptop for my son. You GoFundMe. There's so many different ways that people can, we're hustlers a lot of times, and you can just kind of try to get, like I said, people can donate I give away all my old tech all the time.
Okay, and then that leads me to another question, and we're coming up on the hour here, so I want to give the audience a chance to chime in. If you have any quick questions, type them in the chat. We'll get them to Lori. But my question is, with this COVID and the changing of the workforce, a lot of people went home to work. We don't know if a lot of people are even going to be going back into traditional offices to work. Is this an opportunity opportunity for people interested in tech and remote fields to, kind of jump on it, get ahead of the game, and look for those types of opportunities.
That's an excellent point. Absolutely. Like I said, now is the best time if you want to get in at the ground level, because they're going to be needing more, like I said, first level, entry level type technicians and people like that to kind of help people as they transition into remote work. So that's a good point. And if you're currently been laid off or furloughed or something, now's the perfect time to use that time that you have to learn maybe a different skill set. Like I said, you go in and any one of those jobs or type in the word IT and the word certification in a Google search, and you will come up with a lot of different places to go where you can kind of go to those webs. A lot of them are free. There's a Microsoft offers free Windows and Word and Excel and just basic office programs that can elevate you for somebody who's not really that adept at using those types of programs at your job. You increase your skills even at your job and learn about how those programs work. That's adding to your technical base of skills. So take advantage of this time if you're laid off to maybe learn some new skills to go along with the skills that you already have for your work. And if you're completely interested in an IT and maybe changing skills or entering, look up a certification path. Not necessarily, you don't have to necessarily get the certification, because I never got it. I just, I started it and then I kind of like I started working. So I never finished it. But, and so I've been more of a hands-on on the job type of learning. But at least, kind of start getting something under your belt if you're interested in getting into that space, because it is, you could be a natural. Sometimes if you're lucky enough to get a job and you're just a natural at it, there's plenty of people. I've always marveled at people that can like play the piano and never had a lesson. That's just something that's innate. You know what I mean? If you have that gift, then by all means, that makes it easier. But, everybody can kind of learn how to do something. And if you're interested in it and you enjoy it and you like it, that makes it fun while you're doing it.
All right. So do you want me to stop sharing my screen? Are we?
Yeah, okay? Yeah. No, I'm done with the slides.
All right. All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here.
Okay. And then I guess what I'm wondering is, I know everybody, looks at the big dream jobs like Google and Facebook and Salesforce and some of those bigger tech agencies. But those agencies can be harder to get in. I hear that the interview process can be grueling to get into some of these tech spaces. What are some less commonly known like tech industry jobs that people will probably have a better chance of getting into as a starter job of some industries?
I don't know about grueling, but in IT, you're going to interview with more than one person all the time, and you're going to have at the minimum 3 interviews. So you're going to start off with a screener, maybe a recruiter. Then you're going to go to the hiring manager. They're going to screen you. If you get past the hiring manager and you get into the team or you're meeting with the team, that's just a part of the process. So you might as well just kind of groom yourself and get accustomed to it. If you're not used to interviewing with 4 or 5 or 6 people, you're going to have to start getting used to that types of thing. And that's the part that can become grueling, because now you got 6 different people asking you a question. You don't know where they're going to throw these questions from. So yeah, it can be challenging and it can be intimidating and you can get really nervous, but that's just how it is. And if you are the kind of person that, you don't have to lie. You just say, I haven't come across that particular scenario in my experience. That's typically how I answer it if I don't know the answer. And that's just kind of how it is. And you just kind of keep going as you go along. I've probably interviewed 200 times in my 27 years. I've become, I know how to do it like the back of my hand. If I tell my boys, I train them, and I even in getting their interviews for, like, my son works at Subway. I showed him how to do his resume. I told him why he had certain information on his resume, why to put it there, in what order. And we do mock interviews. I tell them these are the questions they're going to ask. Prepare your answer ahead of time in your head. You know what I'm saying? So you can even find those types of things on the internet, as well as how to prep for an interview as an IT person. Even that kind of stuff is out there if you do a Google search. So, that's just, help desk that, you may have one or two people to interview you in that, as you kind of get more higher up in the chain in terms of skill set, you'll have more people. But it's really in just kind of knowing the answer, how to be confident in your answers, and illustrate your answers sometimes by giving examples. So if they say, are you familiar with DNS? And you say, yes. You can't just say yes. You say, yes, it stands for domain naming system. So stuff like that. So you want to have that information to be able to present as well. But one that's easier over the other, I don't think there is one. Like I said, it's just more in depth. And I can interview with one set of people and they ask ridiculous questions based on some scenario that only they are facing, that's a problem they can't solve, and they'll ask the person that they're interviewing this obscure question that's completely only in their environment, and as a way to gauge your skill set, right? Sometimes you'll get that kind of stuff, and there's just no way around it, and sometimes you'll go into a whole nother interview for the same type of role, and they'll ask very high level, very generic questions, and they're more interested in how you interact with the people, that's the team that's in the room and things like that. They're not necessarily looking for a right answer to the question. They're more trying to gauge your personality and stuff. So you never can tell which one scenario you're going to walk into. You just got to be prepared for both of them.
Okay, be prepared and know your acronyms. You said verbal illustrations by knowing the acronyms of the different programs. Right. What about tangible illustrations? Is there anything that you can present, a physical documents that kind of show your skill level in IT?
Not really. I've never seen a position require that you provide like an example, and they might. Like I said, I'm not into programming skills, so I don't know if that's a part of their process where they ask you to submit a sample of your coding. They could very well do that. I don't know, because I've never been in that type of role. But for the most part, it's just being able to verbally illustrate that you understand concepts and that you know what's going on. And I'm going to leave you guys with this one thing. There's the basis for everything technical. They have what you call like I know that Amoya had mentioned about the full stack. So when you're talking about a full stack on the developer side, you're talking about somebody that can handle the front end, which is the application programming, the database part of it, and the hardware part of it. So this person fully knows how to create something from the hardware to the database to the application front end. Same thing, similar on the infrastructure and system side. There's a basis for everything that is in networking and in IT that everybody has to learn. And when you take a class, this is the first thing you're gonna learn, and it's called the 7-layer OSI model. So I say that again, the 7-layer ostrich, Sam, indigo OSI model. That's the basis for everything. So if you got that inclination and want to learn about IT, if you understand the 7-layer model, you're getting a head start on most people who are even taking classes. You know what I'm saying? So that's just something that if you're interested, look it up. Because that's the basis for, everything has a building block. That's the building blocks pretty much for all things IT, even programming, because everything programming is at the upper 2 layers, which is 6 to 7. So, then I'm more toward the lower half of the layer from 3 to 4, actually 3 to 6, 3 to 7. Jeez. Yeah. System engineers have to kind of know the whole stack, but each one of those jobs are fit within that 7 layers. So if you understand the 7 layers, then you understand how the IT kind of things all build and interconnect. and then there's jobs at every one of those layers.
Okay. So understanding the 7-layer OSI model is always a good place to begin. All right, Umoya, did you have any wrap up, any last thoughts?
No, I think we should probably do this. And well, first of all, Lori, I think we definitely appreciate your time and your wisdom and giving us your wonderful explanation on the IT industry. We really appreciate you taking your time. First
Thank
of all,
you so much. Yeah, very informative.
and I also want to say I just found out that unfortunately Eric Woods, his father had a stroke. So unfortunately, that's why he couldn't join the call today. But I definitely want to give condolences and safe recovery to him and his family and his father in particular, especially amongst this COVID-19 time. So I did want to show some slides, but because we're an hour in, maybe we can just do this call another time. And as far as for me, I'm pretty much okay.
All right.
Well, I appreciate you guys. Appreciate the invite. If you get any inquiries from people that kind of want to know more or need help in pointing to specific places that they can go to research or to take some classes, just pass their info to me, and I'll be glad to help.
Okay. Actually, there is excuse me. Actually, there is a comment for, I think it's Mark. Sorry if I mispronounced your user ID name. But Mark mentions Veeam Software is a global company hiring from web designers, sales, content developers to directors in IT. So the company called VEEAM Software is a company that everyone should look up.
And Veeam does backup solutions. That's a company. It's a software company, and they have a software solution that does backups. And so, like I said, a lot of the companies are, like I said, software companies, and they have all, they're heavy on the developer side, heavy on the programming side, but they still all companies have to have an infrastructure and people to manage the infrastructure and help desk people to, people reset password. I mean, there's always the lowest level of IT all the way up, but sometimes it's just more heavily concentrated in certain skill sets. But they always have those type of openings. Thanks, Mark. I've been seeing you in the chat. Looks like you probably are in IT space. One of his comments was that he was interviewed for hours by 5 people. Yeah, it can be daunting sometimes. So you just have to get ready for that. But I appreciate you.
All right. Well, everybody enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Lori, we certainly appreciate you joining us today. And until next time, maybe when Eric is available, like I said, we can continue to have these conversations.
Okay, great.
No problem. All right. Thanks, fam. All right, peace.
Peace.